Cool. Well, obviously this year has been pretty crazy, and it's almost over. And I know that you guys were planning on doing this big world tour, or at least I think I knew that you were going to come to the States.
Yeah.
And of course, we were going to go see you guys and stuff, and that was probably in yeah,
Oh
February.
man.
And then life happened. And so how has your year been? Like, you probably had a bunch of stuff that you guys had to postpone and stuff. And what have you been doing with your suddenly free schedule?
Yeah. I mean, it's been. I mean, it was really horrible. It was still shocking. It's still hard for me to get my head around how everything really happened because it happened so quickly. I mean, super fast. It felt like the Twilight Zone. Or really like a bizarre world.
Totally.
Instantly.
Like in
Um,
2 weeks, it seemed
yeah,
like I think it was the end of February, and then we started hearing the news about it, and then literally it seemed like 2 weeks went by, and then it was all over the world,
it
and
was super fast.
super fast, and just the reactions that people had to it were really interesting, I guess we should say.
Well, I mean, I definitely believe the reaction was disbelief, because we had never, I don't think in our generation had to deal with anything so intense and so radical. A pandemic, it's just something unheard of, in our lifetime.
Yeah, totally, totally. And
But
oh, go ahead.
oh no, no, go on.
Oh, I checked with people older than me, and they too, people that I know that are like in their 70s, and they went, "No, we there was never anything like this in our lifetime either. This is the first for everybody." But yeah,
Right.
I thought that people would, you know, hey, we should all bond together and just stay indoors and just listen to science. So the way everything played out was just like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean,
And and even with the election, what just happened, which I was honestly surprised. I kind of hate to say because I just thought for sure that he who shall not be mentioned would be
right.
elected again, just because I have this belief that more people are sort of not very intelligent than the people that are intelligent, I guess. And
Right.
I don't mean it like that, but
No,
I
but
just
I definitely it's a very good point. I mean, um, if you wanted to get into that, I mean, before this whole like lockdown thing, we were rehearsing, preparing for a whole world tour and everything. And we stayed away from playing Europe, a lot of festivals in 2019 because we were recording the album in Sweden.
yeah
And um, so we specifically did that because we thought 2020 is going to be the time that we go and hit all those festivals and hit everything. Yeah,
sure.
yeah, plans. It's just like laughing at our plans. But yeah, like you said, it happened so quickly. It went from like sitting in rehearsal to getting a phone call from Phil from Sacred Reich, the band that we were going to go on tour with, and he was like, "I can't go." He's like,
Yeah,
and he was really bummed, almost in tears. It's just like I have pre-existing health conditions, and it wouldn't be safe for me to go on tour. And I
yeah,
was like, this, and I was in Brazil, and they have the same type of president that we did have. That was, it was completely non-existent um, for people in Brazil. So I was concerned and really worried, and I was like, okay, this is. And then a day later, everything was canceled. As far as that tour, European tour, festival tours for the whole year, and um, it just happened that quickly. And then I was like, okay, I got to get out of this country because things are going to get really bad. It already gone through a carnival that was happening there, and there were people with no mask or any safety whatsoever for a week of just spreading COVID around all over the place. And I was isolated for the most part of that. And I finally got a way to get back to the US. And as soon as I got back, there were people in hazmat suits at the airport. and it was the first day of like the lockdown, in the middle of
Right.
March, and but but to and so then that just killed everything. I mean, we haven't been able to do anything or set up anything. We had, since a majority of my band are Brazilian, we filed for visas, 6 months before, work visas, and they were just voided. It's a lot of money just lost, merchandise, all that, just gone. All the people that work with us, they're just jobless, and so it was a complete catastrophe, and it seemed very hopeless. The first week or two, I was just like, "Oh my god," like what is going on? I was terrified of like even walking outside or anything.
Yeah.
But the what you mentioned about the public at large, especially in the U.S., because of so many years of a horrible education system, failing, going down, and no money put into that, and for teachers, for proper payment for teachers and everything. I've just watched it, sink dramatically,
Yeah.
and that, I believe, has a lot to do with where we're at now. Education, the lack of education, uh, and many other things that go along with that. So it wasn't that surprised. I wasn't that surprised when Trump won that first, when he won that time.
Yeah.
I was really like, oh yeah, it seems like that's the way things are going to go. And
Yeah. Falls in line. Yeah. It's like people are
and
really impressed by the promise of celebrity hood,
right,
call it, like I think of all the people that care about, like if you wait in line at a grocery store and there's all those
right,
there's all those like, you know, those magazines, like whatever the
yeah,
people, us, and like, yesterday's has-beens today, and who did what, and how many people really care about that stuff and always have. And you know, I just can't help but think that the kind of people that would find that interesting might some of those people might be interested in somebody like what's his face, so
yeah. No,
you know
absolutely. I mean, the U.S. is a really strong TV type culture, reality show culture that's grown so strong, and it has such an influence on the rest of the world, unfortunately.
not to mention,
In that negative sense, there's a lot of positive things that people take from the US, but this is something that's been really, um, I mean, it's just been super powerful, as far as, making this figure become almost like a cult figure. It's
like
like they're
like
making t-shirts, and bumper
wearing
stickers.
wearing their
Yeah.
face, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna, I voted how I voted, but I'm just not gonna be walking around wearing a fucking hat with wearing a t-shirt, you
Yeah,
know
I'm not gonna be wearing Biden gear, like
no,
gear me up.
that's just kind of embarrassing,
Right.
and I voted against Trump not because he was a Republican, but because he
No,
was
not at
a horrible
all. Yeah.
person,
Right.
that an awful person that handled the pandemic in such a
Uh,
destructive way that it's like, oh my God, more people actually agree with me, because people are really into tribalism and stuff like that, and
yeah.
I don't understand that at all, to be honest.
Right.
I think everybody should be treated as an individual as you encounter them, but that apparently seems to be too much for most people to handle
Hmm.
on whatever side of, apparently there's only two ways you can think about these things, this way and that way. And if you're like in the middle, like I tend to be,
Right.
you're fucked, even that's
Right.
bad. And it's like,
Right.
so I didn't vote against Trump because he was Republican. I the pandemic is why I voted against him. I mean, basically, when it comes down to
Right.
it, and obviously a lot of other people agreed. I was shocked. I thought for sure he was going to, I'm just happy that common sense sort of seemed to win out. And I listened to a lot of people that, I tried to listen to the other viewpoints, like a lot of right
Hmm.
wing
Yeah.
people, just to see where they're coming from. And, it just doesn't make any sense though. It's like there's a lot of damage control people that are intelligent have to do with that sort of, I'm not trying to turn this into a political
No, I hear you. But it's definitely,
yeah, it's been on my mind,
a reality that's happening right now.
Yeah. I kind of hold, I obviously I can't hold him single-handedly responsible for what happened, but just the way the whole thing was turned into this political thing when it was
Yeah.
signed, it's like, and he could have just as easily said, "Hey, everybody, we have our differences. Let's just all work together so we can sit tight and get through this together as Americans."
I just don't understand why he never could say that. That's what was the one thing that just drove me crazy. I just couldn't get my head around that. There was a lot of mistakes that really led to his own demise. It really was all him. There were a lot of people around him that, were just like, what are you doing? And even in his own party, they really were on top of things. They had, the Senate, they had a large amount of people voting consistently.
Yep.
They had like a very strong group for a while, but he just continued to drive it into the ground, it seemed, where it's just like enough is enough, like it's just nobody knowing really what's going to happen day to day, just like, oh, what's going to happen today? Even his own party, so that you got to feel that they had enough too, where they're kind of going where the people go, and they didn't realize that he would be such a cult figure, like this, which is really outrageous. I think there was maybe a backlash from Obama being so powerful as like a figure where, I don't know, like they were like, well, we need our figure, we need our person that's
We need our guy.
Yeah, and I was just, but it just ended up, in shambles. It's still continuing on. So
I can't say. I was really happy, but I can't say I felt good when I realized that even though it is a great joyous occasion, that ultimately the pandemic is, it doesn't really change anything. And when I saw all the people going out in the U.S. and partying and stuff,
I know, I was like, oh my God.
I was like, you idiots. It would have been so much cooler if everybody had spontaneously stayed at home and just were like, woo, and did this, whatever. And I was like, oh.
I know, it's really, you make a very strong point, because I was just this morning speaking with a nurse that I know, and she says it's just packed up. It's really backed up. A lot of people in the hospital now, and it's outrageous and all over the U.S. again.
Yeah,
like really bad. She was saying, it's packed with people from their 30s to 60s or so, and underlying health conditions really bad. Nobody's talked about building up immunity and eating properly or taking the proper precautions of not getting wasted and drinking in the pandemic so much that will probably add to you having a chance of getting the Rona. But the Rona. But it's for real. It's worse. It's really, really bad. At this point in time, and it's only getting worse.
It's like a game of Russian roulette. I just can't afford to play.
Yeah, and I don't. I don't want to take those chances. It's just I really was excited to hear that Joe Biden is now stepping up. Now he's not even in power yet, and he's already putting together a team of scientists, of people who really know what they're talking about.
It's like, thank God.
I know, like finally.
And it's like, I really can't stress enough that I'm just not a my team versus your team kind of person.
Right. Neither am
and
I.
that there's things I like and dislike about either the two ways that you're supposed to think about everything. I'm not into tribalism. I'm not into, well, I'm this kind of person and you're that kind of person. So that means this is how.
Yeah, man, I feel the same way. I just really, I'm not angry at Trump supporters by any means, and I don't think all Trump supporters are racist.
I
which
don't think so either.
pisses me off when people say that. I'm like, Stop adding fuel to the fire. That's totally unnecessary. It's
Stop,
not that, you
yeah,
know?
stop piggybacking this other supposed injustice onto
Right.
their injustice. Now it's like,
Exactly.
I think being a shitty, horrible person is enough.
Yeah. Right.
And failing horribly at his duty is enough,
Fuck.
you know,
Miserably failing. I mean,
miserably failing, totally.
yeah. I mean,
And
now he hasn't said anything about it, and the U.S. is in complete disarray with Corona. You know,
yeah,
and he hasn't come
like
out and talked about anything. He's out
no,
golfing.
he's like throwing a hissy fit.
Uh,
Like how old are you? You know, like oh, an idiot. Well, anyway, I
yeah.
I liked what you guys ended up doing. It seemed like after
Mm.
the shock wore off, you guys immediately bonded together and started doing all that quarantine Sepultura programming. And I think you guys are the one band that used this downtime probably the best of any. I mean, not like I'm
Right.
seeking the best, but it's like you guys, all the interviews with people, like, and all the songs, like the one with Devin Townsend, especially
Yeah, that was a
that was
lot of
really,
fun.
and
Yeah.
that song was really timely, by the way.
Oh
The
yeah. Thank you.
for some reason. So
Yeah.
you guys really did a good job of just utilizing. Well, we can't do anything, so let's just keep
Yeah.
people interested and engaged. Has that been pretty successful so far?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, for us, it was a way to stay connected with fans and with people. Um, and it was a lot of fun to really put together and to jam with people that we really admire and respect. You know, the others artists, um, and and from that, we're gonna create an actual album. You know,
Awesome.
of and have it mixed and with all those different artists. So that's what we're putting together, which will be really cool.
Yeah, that's really smart. And like a lot of those are performances are really, really good. Like
Yeah.
they
And
and
then
they you put that weird effect on your voice for some of those songs. I was like, that's I that was it was an older song. It might have been Chaos AD, but it's like that's a cool vocal effect right there.
right on. It was I mean, it was so much fun to really like to get together and I loved hearing like once we gave the tracks to the guests that we're gonna jam with, like, with Devin, he was like, "Oh, I want to mix it, I want to do," it was just like cool. Like I didn't know what to expect to hear, and I was like, "Wow, it sounds so amazing!" Um, and it was great having guests on, like really a variety of different guests, and we started to even move out of the entire like music or metal world and having guests that were talking about certain things that we were interested in. So we wanted to really branch out, and we did that by having certain topics about depression and suicide, and about the indigenous Indians.
Yeah,
Like it's just like really spanning. You know, we felt that we could really grow with it, and not just stay in the box of just doing stuff surrounding only music or musicians, but other things that we're interested in.
yeah, I agree. You guys did, and especially with the subject of depression. I know you talked about that in a few interviews. There was some inspiration in your personal background about that, and
Hmm.
that might be something that people could probably use to hear right about now. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun
I mean,
for
I forget as like artists, I think it's easier for us to be in a lockdown, because I
oh,
mean,
it's totally,
you
totally,
know, I
because
mean,
like I just draw all the time. I mean,
right.
I used to play music more, and that the art went out after 30 plus years of whatever. But home and draw. My partner, she does the same thing.
Oh, really?
We're
Wow,
like
that's cool.
we're kind of introverted, so it's
Yeah,
kind of like I have to recharge my batteries by being away from people. So it must be awful if you're an extrovert right now, but
yeah, yeah.
not not a lot has changed. 'Cause I'm not going for drawing in front of people, so
Right, right. I mean, as
prob-
much as I was like touring and traveling around people constantly, for the past like 20 years or more, nonstop, it really felt amazing to be at home. It was incredible a feeling to be off the road, and I started to get really used to it, and starting to just think about other things, and it's great. I mean, it's really cleared my head in a lot of ways.
Have you reinvented yourself as far as besides the video stuff that the band's done? You've done
Yeah,
some other projects. I know you have a television show or some kind
yeah,
of show. You mind talking about that a little bit?
sure. The idea of the show is the name of the show is called Highway to Health, and I came up with the idea a while ago, probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And then
Uh-huh.
I met Tanya O'Callahan, who's the co-host of the show, and she's from Ireland, and she's also a musician. She's playing with all these different artists around the world. And so she had the same idea as far as having a travel show, talking to different people about a plant-based lifestyle or sustainability of the planet, not necessarily only about food, but just, clothing or cars or everything, surrounding, how we can make this planet better, and how we're learning, me and my co-hosts, because there's a lot of things I'm learning every day about how technology is advancing and what people are doing around the world to change things for the better, reinvent certain foods and reinvent certain ideas. And it's great to see this trend happening not only in the US, but all over the world. And living in Brazil, I noticed this as well, a place where meat is so popular and so big, that it's been changing over the past years rapidly. And I wanted to find out, the reasons. And we really wanted to create a show that's not forcing these ideas on people, but just opening the ideas so people can see what is evolving, what's changing, and to have people who aren't actually vegans or plant-based, on our show. We want to have everybody on the show, and really, I don't want to be preaching to plant-based people or vegans the entire time because they already have their lifestyle changed.
Right.
The people, it's like preaching to the choir. So we want to go to people and be like, hey, you may not have tried this. Maybe one day a week, you you could try something like this. And it's like for me, I want to be boosting those people, like giving them encouragement. I don't expect the whole world to be, to stop eating meat and stuff like that, but I'm very realistic. And I really want to commend people who try to do a change maybe one day a week, or try something different. I think that's the greatest starting point, and that does make an actual difference. And just get people to think about where they're putting the money. Why are you buying this? Why are you supporting this company? Do you know anything about where you're putting your money and the companies that you're supporting? Because I think if they knew where their money was going and who they're supporting, because those companies don't give a shit about them, they
Right.
might not put their money there. And there's other companies that are out there that do give a shit about you. And they're
Right.
not only about just profit, and they're about, sustainability, about the planet. They're thinking about other things other than just the profit, which will come because they have great products. They have great products that are going to expand if once people know about them. And just talk a lot with people all over the world. So we filmed all these different episodes before the pandemic,
Right.
about 8 episodes. It's one season. And we fortunately had it all filmed before everything happened. So
Yeah.
all our editors have been editing all the material, and we've been going after people to actually sell the show to a network. And so we were able, since there was no content because nobody was filming for this entire time, we had a lot of people very interested in wanting to sell it because they're like, we can sell this. It's a positive show. You already have everything done.
Yeah.
You have few celebrities in it, and stuff like that, and it's very appealing, to people. And so um, we're at that stage right now where it's pri- almost completely done at it. We're at the selling stage as far as we've teamed up with a company that's going to attempt to sell this for us, hopefully before the end of the year. So everything is going really well. It's the feedback has been great, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to announce the network or where it's been sold.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Did you end up talking to Doyle from the Misfits?
Not yet. Unfortunately, he was on the list because we were supposed to go to New York and film, and we didn't have that in the episode yet. But we have LA, we have Cleveland, because I thought it was important that we go to our hometowns to show where we came from and why and how we turned out this way.
Yeah.
Tanya and I. So me being from Cleveland, we went there, and we went to Mullingar in Ireland, and that's where Tanya is from, a small village there.
Yeah.
We were in Mexico, Sea of Cortez with Sea Shepherd on their two of their vessels, and did a mission with them, which was fantastic. And we were at the NAMM convention in Los Angeles, so we were able to speak with Devin, a bunch of other musicians, the singer of Alice in Chains, like
William?
just a mixture of a mixture of really cool people. And then we show a little bit of the Dime Bash jam with like Dave Grohl and all these different people
Mhm.
jamming. And yeah, so we have like a pretty awesome first season, and I'm really looking forward to start shooting the second season once things get better. You know, I mean,
Right.
hopefully next year we can start with that. But I think it's achievable more so than playing a show. Um,
Yeah.
and so I've definitely been pushing, doing more of that in this direction as far as for the show. So a lot of photographs of food, which I always made fun of people. They're like, why are they taking photos of their food? You know, it's so annoying. And now I'm like every meal and
Now you're doing
yeah. And
well. You have a reason. Oh,
cooking a lot at home and everything like that. And just getting material for the show, you know, and moving forward with that. So I was lucky that I had that going on before all this, because then
yeah.
it would have been
Yeah.
really
Totally.
difficult.
I bet a part of you was like, man, I'm really glad
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Luckily, it seems like for me, people still want artwork and need it or whatever, and I'm pretty grateful because I thought for sure I'd be like, you
Oh
know.
wow, wow. And you're
Well,
saying that your wife is also, she's doing art as well?
yeah, she's a self-employed artist too, and that's what part of my book is about the people that not everybody in the book is like a self-employed hustling sort of person, and not
Hmm.
everybody is completely self-employed, but there's William Duvall actually, I
Yeah,
interviewed him.
William. Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's in there. A lot of the Melvin's guys are in there. All kinds of different people are in there, and you know I'm just lucky, I guess. I feel lucky. Like this year has made me like appreciate what I have and not worry too much about what I don't have or any of that stuff. But I do feel bad for people that are musicians for sure.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's kind of rough. You live in Los Angeles, right?
Correct. Hmm.
Okay. And you used to live in Brazil. How long ago was it when you moved back from Brazil to Los
Uh,
Angeles?
only a few years ago. So it's like really still getting my head around being in the US because I traveled so much. Um, Even when I decided I was going to move back, I was always on the road. So I never lived on the West Coast. I Before I moved to Brazil, I was living in New York, New
Okay.
York City, and that changed radically, you know. I mean, the whole US has changed radically, but especially New York. I mean, after 9/11 and everything, I
Yeah.
was in Brazil at that time. So, and I remember coming back like in October and just, you know, the country had, it was unbelievable, you know, unbelievable time. But yeah, I mean, I'm liking LA. You know, a lot of people I know from New York ended up coming out here. I think the creativity is really picked up here. I never was a big fan of LA. I never imagined living here. I never liked LA, honestly.
I grew actually I was born in Encino, and
Oh wow.
I grew up in Ventura County and moved. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I moved out here in 1986. but I did grow up, there, and I don't know. I just had it was punk rock mailcore is what made me end up in Raleigh, because I was a big fan and friends with Corrosion of Conformity at the
Of
time.
course, yeah.
I
Wow.
So it's kind of weird to tell people now, 30 years later, that that's how I ended up here. But that's honestly from writing letters and stuff. And
Really?
oh yeah, totally. I was like a big letter writer, and I drew stuff for people's fanzines. Like I know that I was going to ask you the question about you auditioning to join Sepultura, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're friends with Mike Gitter,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a pen pal of Mike Gitter, and I used to contribute to his
His
little
zine.
well-meaning zine from back
Right.
then, and we were all totally about all that stuff, and he was yet another person I would tape trade and
Zine,
contribute.
I mean, zines were so fascinating to me as a kid. It was like really where I was getting my information from about
Sure.
what was happening around the country as far as
Yeah.
music and bands. And
Oh
I,
yeah.
it was, I mean, I always idolized that scene in on the West Coast as far as, I mean, I loved a lot of the bands from the East Coast and going to shows and stuff like that, but it was, a dream to go to a show out in LA. Like it just seemed so insane. I was just talking about that movie Suburbia,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh my God, I rewatched it and I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is so funny. And just seeing the flyers from that time period and things like that, I was like, man, they had incredible shows out there.
Yeah. How old are you? Are you like in your late 40s?
Yeah, I'm 49.
Okay.
Next year I'll be 50.
Well, I'm 55 now, so there's not too much of a
No.
difference generationally speaking. But yeah, it was fanzines were kind of like the lifeblood of
Oh yeah.
not just in the punk rock hardcore world, but the underground metal world of the time. They were both very similar, no matter how people like to paint that now. At least that's how I thought. And yeah,
Right.
I feel pretty lucky that I was able to see um, what I was able to see, I guess. But it's just
I mean, especially like those, like I remember like buying that Nardcore album or compilation with all those bands,
yeah.
and
You,
and
you know, read the cover of that?
I know you did now. I mean, I didn't. I mean, back then I was just like, oh my God, this artist, he's doing all this like crazy bands. So
Well, here's the story behind that.
yeah.
The Nardcore record cover was drawn in heavy pencil, and I guess Mystic Records, whoever was in charge of that, they couldn't reproduce it. So they had somebody that worked at Mystic, which was down the street from you've probably heard of the Cafe de Grand, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah.
In Hollywood. It's like the little punker club that everybody played at. Somebody at Mystic just drew over what I did with like a marker, and then they reproduced that. And then like when the record came out, I was like, "Here you go, mate," and they handed me the record, and I was just too mortified and embarrassed to say anything. And I was just,
Oh my God. Are
yeah,
you serious?
yeah, I'm serious. So that's not even artwork, But and not that it was such a amazing, great piece of artwork or anything, but it was like I was just too mortified to say anything. So that's my Nardcore
So I
cover
mean,
story.
before that cover, I mean, you had done artwork for some of those bands that were on there before.
Kind of like I lived in Simi Valley, which is about 50 miles, I think, or 40 miles away from Oxnard and Ventura. Simi
Okay.
Valley was in between what was going on there and what was going on in Hollywood and the San Fernando Valley and all that stuff. And I ended up joining this band in Simi Valley called Scared Straight.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I probably know who Scott Radinsky is, I would imagine. The singer, he for Scared Straight, he ended up being he was a professional baseball pitcher. He pitched for
Wow. I didn't
White
know that.
and the Dodgers and stuff. And Scott's a great guy. We're still friends and stuff, but it's just kind
Holy
of fun
shit.
doing all that stuff. But anyway, I didn't drive. I was one of those people that was scared of driving or just whatever. And I met those guys and hit it off with Scott, especially, and he just drove me everywhere and did all that stuff. And we met all those people. We already knew all those bands, like let's see, like Ill Repute, all like Doctor No.
Wow.
And yeah, so I just kind of forced myself upon these people by showing them that I could draw, and then that's how I ended up drawing stuff, because it was such a small thing that if you wanted to be a part of it, it was kind of easy, of course. So
okay, right.
So that's kind of, and I was one of those. I was like, every city had the guy that stayed in his room and answered mail and dubbed on their double cassette deck all these badly mangled demos that they would get from all over the world, and I was that guy. And you grew up in Cleveland, right?
Right. And I was like getting all this information, but it was so funny because I remember hearing like rumors like, some of this OC stuff is like there's a bunch of like racist like Nazis out there in OC, and I was like, really?
Oh, in Los Angeles? Well,
in Orange County.
Oh, Orange County. A lot of that stuff is kind of, especially with all the books that come out now, some of the very same people that I kind of knew and would see at shows, they kind of sensationalize that stuff a little bit,
Right. It was.
I just looked like a dweeb, and I didn't have a mohawk. I knew right away I just wasn't going to be a very convincing looking punk rocker. And that was sort of why the first band I kind of gravitated toward was Black Flag, because they just looked like regular people, So I was like, okay, I don't have to have a mohawk I just didn't know, because it was like kind of scary, a lot of these people, they just kind of sensationalize a lot of that stuff, because I went to a lot of those same shows and I never had any problems with anybody, but I also wasn't there, I wasn't looking for any of that stuff,
Yeah, right.
And when you read some of that stuff, there's all this stuff about the glory of us versus them, and we're going to out these people, and then we're going to fight these. And I didn't care about any of that, and a lot of people did. It was always there, but maybe I was just lucky, whatever. But it a lot of that's really blown out of proportion.
I mean, I would just like we would look at that album cover and just be like, oh yeah, like, just like laugh. There's just certain characters, on the album cover. I was like, oh shit, that just like, I can still envision it in my head,
Look at that kid on the skateboard. Look at that. And
like all the little details. I was like, oh, he's got that shirt on. Oh, okay, I see. Like, look how his hair is, like.
Well, like when I started drawing stuff and getting stuff printed in magazines like Flipside or Maximum Rock and Roll, I hadn't even really gone to a real show yet. So I just drew what I had imagined things were like. Like my first show was 1983, I guess. So like I just imagined what I thought things would be like, and of course, it was kind of like that. I just imagined everybody was having fun and having a good getting into the music, and that was kind of true. It was usually true, but
were there other artists on the scene that you knew about? Like, who did the comic book for RKL?
Oh, Dan Seitz.
Okay.
I met him one time a long time ago, and I think I was in touch with him just a little bit quite a while ago. But yeah, he was like a friend of theirs. But we all liked RKL a lot. I thought RKL.
I love them.
Was the best band out of all that stuff from that time period. I guess I should get a few other Sepultura questions in here because.
Okay. I'm like, well, what about this art?
No, that's fine. That's fine. But it's going well. We talked about Mystic Records and Trump losing the election, so we're covering a lot of ground. I think Quadra is overall the very best Sepultura record,
I think so too.
Including any stage of their career as a listener. And I think for sure that you got maybe, if not the single best drummer involved, you got that guy Eloy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That guy's amazing.
He's amazing. He blows my mind every time. I mean, I've never played with anyone with that skill level and that charisma. You know, he's so passionate about what he does, and he's so young. But I've never experienced anything like it. You know, it's truly remarkable to see him in the studio, on stage. It's just, it's a phenomena. You know, it's like, even if you don't like metal music, to watch him, you know, you just have this admiration for somebody that really is good at what they're doing, and just putting every last bit into it, you know, all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's like watching somebody run a marathon.
Yeah, right.
Those videos that he was doing with
Oh
him
man, those are
on,
so cool.
yeah, like just the lead off song for the record, Isolation, which is
Right.
great. Just his performance, it's like, I mean, I played drums, and it's like, man, you know, that's just insane. Was the bulk of the music from that record written basically between Andreas sitting with Eloy, and they work out what the music's going to be like, and then they take it, give it to Paulo and you eventually?
I mean, how this worked out on this album and how we primarily would write was like that. Um, since we took a lot more time to write Quadra, so that helped tremendously, having that time to
Yeah,
sit on things and to be like, maybe this, or let's try to change that. But the idea is, we were really comfortable, and we already knew from Machine Messiah, like, okay, the direction where we could go and really push ourselves to go further musically, and to really not hold back. So we realized that we had a really good producer,
oh
Jens
yeah,
Bogren. And this was a essential part as well, because I discovered Jens from listening to a lot of like Swedish metal bands and stuff, and different bands. And I was like, wow, man, this sounds so clear and crisp, but so heavy on certain albums like uh Opeth and stuff. Like, it was just like really,
oh, I love Opeth. I think
yeah,
Opeth are like they're like one of the mainstays. Them and you guys and Voivod, you
yeah.
know.
I'm a huge, oh man, the last Voivod album is so underrated. Like, I can't believe people don't talk about so much
Oh
about.
yeah, Michelle's in my book too.
As he should
So
be, man. But
yeah,
so anyway, I mean, Jens was like an integral part as far as like, we had Ross Robinson, and I love Ross, and I felt that we were, Sepultura never really had a technical uh producer as far as like getting the super clean sound, but also maintaining this heaviness. So
yeah,
I thought Jens would be perfect for that, and I was so happy he was available and really into it. And
yeah,
so we, leaving Machine Messiah, we were like, okay, we worked with him already. We're much more comfortable. We have more time to write the album. Um, so Andreas started coming up with a bunch of riffs, and he just records them, and he just has those riffs.
right.
Eloy would do the same. He would, without Andreas there, you know, recording at home, just drum beats, crazy beats. And he's like, hey, Andreas, check out these beats that I just did, and send them over to Andreas. And they're like crazy beats. And would come up with ideas, guitar riffs. And then we would come to the studio, like the rehearsal studio, and be like, hey, let's play this live together. You know, that, you remember that drum beat that you're doing? I have a riff for it. And so it would come together kind of like that. Um, I was moving, so I was already in LA uh, by that time, and so what they were doing, Andreas would send me the guitar and drums to LA, and
Yeah,
then I would just be walking the streets listening to it, just like, oh my god, this sounds, you know, incredible, you know, like, you know, it's like, and you know, all the slower songs, or the, you know, long intro parts, it's like, it gives it room to build and breathe, you know. And
yeah. There's a lot going on. You know,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
And
really convinced it's the single best record, no
oh
matter.
man, I mean, hearing it myself, I was already just like so excited, like, oh, I was like, fuck, you know, like Eloy really felt so comfortable, more so comfortable, you know, it's his third album, so he's just like, okay, like I'm gonna destroy this. And also Andreas, I was giving him some ideas of certain bands to check out, like really eclectic bands like the fucking Champs. I
Oh
was
yeah,
always, I
yeah,
would always play that
the-
on tour. And
yeah,
he was just like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's just guitar jams."
yeah. Two guitars, drums. Yeah,
Yeah. And I was
yeah.
like, it's badass. And he was like, I like this. He started to really get into it, and a few other things. But I think that had a little bit of an influence, and Opeth as well. We saw them live, and we're just like, oh my god, this band is incredible.
I
And
still think I still think they're good. I don't mind the direction they've gone or anything. I think
yeah,
they
me either.
pound for pound, they just it's a. I mean, it takes up a lot of your time to figure out everything that's going on. But I mean, like, you know, the only stuff I don't like by them is the first two records,
Yeah,
and then
me
and
too.
then onward, I think is like I'm fine with where they've gone. And,
I'm completely fine with that. And
yeah,
so then I really I was just so happy to have that time to really sit and think vocally where this could go. And a lot of the ideas I just started putting like on a cork board of like, this is the ideas I want to write about, and then like branching out from there. And then telling Andreas like, and he's like, sure, that sounds great. And then when we met up, like to do the demo before, we do a demo before going into the actual studio to give the producer. Um,
right,
a lot of the ideas before even speaking with Andreas for like chorus, verse, it was just kind of like there,
yeah,
I was like, that's where I want to put the chorus. He's like, yeah, that's where I thought as well too. And I was like, perfect, next song. Like, it was only a few things like where I was like, I wasn't sure, like the instrumental, I was like, I can do vocals on this. I was like, but it sounds to me more of like a jam instrumental. And he was like, yeah, he's like, it
the
is.
the pentagram song,
Yeah, the pentagram, which is fucking
pretty
insane.
pretty. Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
But
And
I mean, it just really worked out well to have that space and time to write it. And then with the Yens, like going there once we had everything, we were sitting there and he was like certain songs, he was like, I really hear like a choir here.
yeah,
And he's like, and I know we can get a choir, like a Swedish choir that are a church down the street from me. And we can
right.
get them to record this. I was like, oh my God, yes, yes. And he's like, all right, so let's start thinking of some Latin terms to fit in there because the choir is going to need some harmony, idea of where to go. So
Yeah,
I did all that like raw, like coming up in the studio, like sitting there each day, like, we do it song by song each day, like just spend hours on starting early in the morning and just like, okay, let's see the lyrics, let's see where we're at, and I'd have the lyrics and we'd change things around to even fit better, like maybe not that word, let's try this word. And and just really going deep, with this in detail, because Jens really takes things on, um where it's his own, becomes his own. It becomes like a member of the band pretty much. And
yeah,
and then everyone is so confident at this point where it's just me and Jens, and then again it's just Andreas and Jens, just Paulo and Jens, like nobody there, nobody saying anything, like everyone just letting everyone have their time to do their part.
hmm
So those guys didn't hear a lot of the vocals I did until it was like done,
really,
like, yeah, like especially Eloy, because he's the first one done. He did his drums in like a week. It's just, and it's unheard. I was like, what? Like he was done. Like, oh, I'm going home. I was like, holy shit, he's done recording. Like
wow,
what, like not many takes, just like, which is unheard of. It's just like he loves to just do full takes and they're all really good. And then he's like a perfect. He's just like, I want to do it again. And he's like, really? Like he ends to be like, are you? He's like, And the thing with the ends, he's like dead honest. He's like, and he can tell you why something is not good. So this was really important as a producer to be like, this is not good because of this, and it can be better if you do this. you
right,
know and so it was really an enjoyable experience. It was really, really difficult, really draining. At the end of the day, we were just so tired, like, I'm going to bed. It's like literally like, I'm going to
exhausting.
bed, see you in the morning.
Yeah,
Like our brain was just like, just done. Every aspect, was just like exhausted. But I
yeah,
feel it was, for us, the best work that we've done. hands down, musically, sound wise, in every aspect, playing wise. It's just
Well,
really
and you're singing too. Like I also like it when you sing.
yes. And this
Yeah,
was something that I was really surprised that a lot of metal people and everything were just like, wow, it sounds fantastic when you sing. It was like more and more like people just like from Machine Messiah to onwards. I was like, yeah, I thought that the music was geared better for singing as we grew as a band. I think the idea of having these certain parts where I was like, I could sing on that part became better, in a way. Um, so I was happy to do that. I mean, I just wanted to do it where it didn't sound forced. I just wanted to be very natural.
yeah. Like there's I'm too old to really know what these kind of bands are called, but well, you
Right. I
know,
know what you're talking about.
but the bands where there's two guys and one guy whines,
Yeah.
another screams. I'm just
Yeah.
that's just that it's not a put down. It's
No,
just
you and me both. I agree. I know what you're talking about.
because I know you like a lot of very different kinds of music, as do I've heard
Hmm.
you talk about Sad Wings of Destiny and
Oh yes.
Miles Davis
Oh
and
yeah.
uh, and anything in between. So
Hmm.
so you would definitely say that Quadra was overall your favorite.
And I mean, definitely. I mean, I'm so looking forward. I mean, we haven't played. We played one song, two times live, Isolation twice, and that's
Oh,
it.
for the video,
Yeah, we played Rock in Rio,
right?
and I was just like, my heart was like out of my chest because it's a difficult song to do because it's so fast and it gets you so much adrenaline.
And
And then
plus,
we,
you got to fit in there exactly at the precise moment when the singing starts. I've noticed.
yeah, and then we did it in France for Hellfest. They flew us out to do like a special opening thing for the festival, which was going to be epic festival Hellfest with Faith No More. We're going to play with and all these different bands, and they're
Yeah,
like, "I come out and do a promotional thing, and you do that song." And we did it. We did a show, and that was it. We haven't played any, and I mean, I was so ready, like we were all so ready in rehearsal. It's going so well. We had like an incredible set list where we're gonna play like 6 new songs, if not
yeah,
7. We're just like, fuck, we're gonna play new songs, man. Like,
we're gonna kill it.
yeah.
And
And it
then,
was like, yeah, I was just like, oh my God. But I'm looking forward to eventually do those live. And
yeah, it's gonna happen.
yeah,
For sure.
right.
I mean,
But I
it's
mean,
gonna.
it's just a lot of bands though that are just like they can't hold on though. It's really difficult for them. I don't know if they're going to return after this.
Sure, yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
people I know they had to get jobs, like jobs, you
sure.
know, and they have families they have to support, and it's no joke.
No,
Mhm.
not that liberal hoax I was hoping for.
Oh yeah, it's going to be over at the elections.
Yeah,
I love
vote
hearing
for
that from
me.
my neighbor.
Vote for
I,
me,
lo-
and we'll get you this vaccine.
I love hearing that from
I
my
also,
neighbors.
I also gotta say that like I think you're a bigger Sepultura fan before you were in the band than I was. Like I came aboard with Chaos AD and Roots, and I went back and listened to. I know I listened to the Arise and Beneath the Remains before. Maybe I should listen again, but you know, uh, I I think you do a really good job of handling, especially since we talked about things that influence the world and like the internet culture and stuff. You do a very good job with the people that insist on letting their whole world know what they think about the band now. And
Hmm.
but I'm really just not just because of the singer change. I'm just not convinced that the band. I like the band better now. I have to say, I respect the past and everything, but I'm just not.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel this way as well. It's just there's a lot. I mean, it's always been like this weird like divide, which I found it's
It's like
ridiculous. It's like
it's kind of like if you don't like Quadra, you're just being a dick. You know, you're at
right,
this.
right.
Now it's like
Because there's a lot of people that came out after Quadra, and I've seen it grow where they're like, I didn't like it, but now I've liked the last 3 albums, or I've liked the last 2 albums. So there has been this change, and I've noticed it at shows, and it's actually been the reason why we've been able to continue onward. There's a lot of fans that never saw that era, of course, with the ex singer. It's been over 22 years, so
it's a long fucking. Like, you
it's a
know,
lot of years. So I mean, we've been able to go on, fortunately, because I think we haven't been trying to repeat ourselves, because that would kill us.
yeah, I don't think so. And like even like against, I
Oh,
was
right.
like, this is fine. This is fine for me. I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with this at all. This
And
is
it's fine for a lot of people. I mean, playing those songs now, the reaction is insane. It's really like, wow, I don't remember it ever being like that when it came out. you know, which is funny. Like, it was like a struggle, we were fighting. But now when we play those songs, I see the audience, oh yeah, yes, this is,
like Old Earth and those kind of
yeah.
songs.
Oh man, well, Old Earth, we haven't
well,
played in a long.
I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, the band had to basically almost start over after that thing anyway. And, like it seems pretty obvious that you guys clearly like what you're doing,
Oh
that
yeah.
you're doing it no matter what. And, it's almost
And-
like a war of attrition and you guys won.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way. I mean, I'm just happy that we never gave up on ourselves. Like you said, there was a lot of criticism and things like that, but there were a lot of people that really knew that we loved what we were doing. They were actually listening and watching what we were doing. They were seeing the growth and the evolution that was happening, because it takes time, when there's so many changes in a band, and we had to get comfortable with each other on the road, and all those things are just very natural. And I'm just happy, which I'm glad that it's been evolving upward. I'm glad that it hasn't been like.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's like, especially with I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it Kairos, or is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce it?
Kairos, yeah.
Kairos. I think from that point, from that point onward, is that with the guy Gene that played
Yeah.
drum?
Hmm.
Well, I think for whatever reason, that point, I mean, just me personally, from that point onward, when hearing Mask and Spectrum and those songs, I was like, yes,
Yeah, right.
and the
No,
band.
I think you're right.
What was that?
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
That was
So
definitely a tipping point of like, really, it's such a weird thing, because there was these like weird curse things that were happening with the band. Like, we would get to a certain level,
yeah,
like Against, and then there was like Nation, and then with Dante, at that time when we did that was the last album that Igor played on, and it was like, all right, we got a label again that believes in us. We have a great album. We're ready to do this tour. We got some good response from people. It's going to be great. And then he was like, I'm not going to go on tour. I'm not going to do it. And then he eventually left. We actually went on tour, and we took Roy Mayorga, who played Stone Sour, and he played a Soulfly. And I knew him from New York. And he came to the tour with us and In Flames. And it was an awesome tour. It was a lot of fun, packed shows, sold out, and big shows. And it was great. And we came off like, okay, like, I'm out of the band. And then it's like starting again, new drummer, blah, blah, blah. Getting to Kairos, where it's like, yes, okay, we're here. At another phase, another label, great label, believing in us, great feedback from this. Let's do this. I'm out. And then it's just like, oh, and then starting again with Eloy. And so we passed that curse, I think. Eloy's there. We're able to, third album. And it's just been great with him and with this label, Nuclear Blast. It's just been very supportive, which helps.
Yeah, sure. Well, Igor was an amazing drummer.
Yeah, he is, man. I can't take anything away from him. He's a phenomenal drummer. And Gian is a very amazing drummer as well.
It's
I
good
just,
too.
I just love playing with Eloy because he likes being there. He loves to be there playing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's also, as it turns out, he's definitely. I mean, there are all those guys, but it seemed like when he especially came aboard, it's just been like,
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't really say anything. I mean, like especially live. I mean, there's just been so many like drummers that even he looks up to. They've just been on the side like watching him like this motherfucker. My God, he's just Lars Ulrich to, you know, various drummers are just like, holy shit.
like the one thing about metal that I always like is that what the fuck did that guy do right there? Let me rewind that. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know about a band called Confessor at all?
Yeah. Oh my God. I played with them and I've seen them
Really?
back in the day.
What?
Yes, man.
No way.
Crazy vocalist, like very high, like
Yeah, not
yeah.
Jeffrey. Well,
Yes.
the drummer Steve is also in my book, so yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Oh my God,
I saw.
Confessor! I can't believe you know that.
Oh yeah, I saw Confessor like they're like a local band, and they.
Holy shit!
So I saw them when they first started out, and then they released these 3 amazing demos, and then the
Right.
record eventually came out.